Hi, I'm Mike Brofman, and welcome to Song and Wine, Brooklyn Art Song Society's web series where we discuss our upcoming concerts over a glass of wine. I'm joined today by pianist Danny Zelibor, who is joining us on January 4th for our Ned Rorem portrait concert. We're also joined by this awesome Italian red brought to us by Waterfront Wines, our awesome wine sponsor. So let's just give this a taste.
Get to the important part.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
So, my first question for you is, you have an interesting set, because unlike the other pianists who are playing cycles that are meant to be together, you're playing just sort of 8 miscellaneous songs that I think flow together nicely, but were written over the course of 30 years.
Right.
And so, of these songs, which would you say is your favorite, and why?
I mean, I hate to do sort of the normal thing and say I like all of them, but musically speaking, I do like all of them. But for a nostalgic reason, "Genie with the Light Brown Hair" is my favorite because it was literally the very first art song that I learned as a pianist, like back my freshman year of undergrad. It's just kind of interesting to revisit it. And it brings back very specific memories from when I learned it then, and I'm bringing something new to it now, so it's been fun on that one.
Yeah, and I think it's a good song for a Ned Rorem concert, because I think Ned Rorem as a composer takes advantage of nostalgia and, using idioms of the past. He was sort of seen as a tonal composer in a time when tonality was sort of out of fashion.
Yeah.
That's sort of why he's one of the Iconoclasts, that he sort of stubbornly resisted all the trends.
Always stubborn.
And just was shameless about liking a nice, beautiful tune. And it's interesting the difference between composers who write tonally when, like in the 19th century, like Schumann, Schubert, Brahms, when that was sort of what was expected, versus a composer like Ned Rorem who writes in a tonal idiom that, in many ways is not unlike Schubert. But he's doing it when that's not the norm.
Right.
And it, the same notes or the same style just feels very different when it's the way people are writing versus someone being counter to sort of the trend of history.
Well, that's one of the things that I like about him is that he's always himself. If you go through the time span of the songs that I'll be playing, you can always, even though the different texts are so different and each little world is just the complete opposite of the one preceding it, it's always Ned Rorem. And I like that about him, that he was just sort of unapologetically himself.
I like to organize these concerts as I do a lot of one composer for the whole concert, portrait concerts. What was it like to you to just learn a whole bunch of one composer, all at once?
What has been most striking to me are the similarities between all the different years that we're looking at. The most important one to me is that he always picks really good text. Well, I mean, he wrote, how many diaries did he write?
10 volumes or something ridiculous.
A ton. He
was a writer
wrote
himself,
a lot.
and a
He's
novelist,
a brilliant
too.
writer. And so he loves words, and you can tell by what he picks. And I love that about him, that you can tell so clearly that it starts with the printed word, and then it magically turns into this music.
And this is actually a good segue to the last topic. I feel like in art song, we as pianists, we have to study the text just like the singer does, but we don't actually have to say it. So we have a different relationship with the text. But how do you approach looking at a text for a song, you know, and how does that affect how you play as a pianist?
I actually think that it's not too entirely different, the way that a singer and a pianist should approach the text. I mean, obviously the way that it manifests itself is different. Like, I'm not sitting at the piano trying to figure out how to carry a vowel up an octave, or like the weird mechanics of singing. That doesn't matter. We have to be just as intimately acquainted with the words as the singer. And I kind of think of it like driving, I guess. I could drive, well, maybe not now, but I could drive perfectly well anywhere. I don't have to know the roads. I don't have to know where I'm going. Like, I can still perfectly drive. But I won't know where the cops hang out. I won't know where the potholes are. I won't know where, like, a sharp curve is. And it's the same thing. Like, I could sit down and play whatever art song, whatever Ned Rorem song, just fine. I could play the notes just fine. I could do exactly, like, whatever staccato or whatever sforzando is on the page. I could do that perfectly fine. But I don't have any meaning. Like, if I don't know the text, if I don't know why it's on the printed page, it is completely hollow. It was one of the best lessons I learned at Tanglewood this past summer. It was sort of preached by all the coaches there, but especially Alan Smith and Stephanie Blythe. They curated one of the concerts that I was on, and everything was about specificity. And even for the pianist, like, being specific about every little thing that you do. And when you're talking about art song, or anything that involves text, all of that specificity goes back to the printed word. So, like, whether pianist or singer or whatever, I think we have to be equally in the text.
Yes, I agree. And those are sage words to end our discussion on. So I hope you'll join me and Danny on January 4th at the Brooklyn Historical Society. Also in that program, soprano Sarah Braley, baritone Stephen Eddy, and then another pianist, Daniel Schlossberg, and finally Annie Rosen, a mezzo-soprano. It's going to be a great concert, so we'll see you there. Cheers. Cheers.
Another good cowpuncher has gone to meet his fate. I hope he'll find a resting place within the Golden Gate, the Golden Gate. Another place is vacant on the ranch of the XIT. 'Twill be hard to find